G'day guys, how are we going? How well do you know your four-wheel drive? Yeah, I can probably hear a few of you saying, yeah, I know it pretty well. But how well do you know your four-wheel drive? Down underneath. Let's have a chat about that. Righto, so here we are, we're down underneath the full drive, and this is a good area that you certainly want to get to know on your vehicle. Now yours is going to be totally different, and some might be the same as what I've got going on here, but you really want to get to know what's going on underneath your full drive, because when you're out there in the full drive in the bush, you know, you hear all that clanging and banging going on. Sometimes when you're out there on a rocky track, well, it's all this low down stuff that you want to find out and get familiar with it. But you've got to have your full drive to do this. You've got to have it sitting on the ground. Don't go jacking it up or put it up on a hoist to have a look, because as soon as you lift it up on a hoist, all your axles and everything drop at 3 or 4 inches. And you look under there and you think, yeah, nothing hanging, it's all good. So it's got to be on the ground like it is now to get a really good look. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to break it up into 3 sections. So we'll look at the approach, all the approach stuff first from the front here. Then we'll go down the back, we'll look at the departure end of my full drive here, and then we'll finish off, we'll get in the middle there, and we'll look at some of the stuff, some of the low down stuff that's hanging around in there. So at the front of my full drive here, it's the Diff Bolt, right? Now, if yours got a live axle front like mine's, you know, a solid axle here, well, you're going to have a big Diff Bolt here. Now, you really want to know where that is and which side it's on, and get familiar where that is. You know, because that's the first point of call. You know, if you're driving up a rocky track, that's the first thing that's going to get hit, which is one reason why I've sort of got a bit of a diff cover on that one. So you want to know where that is and get familiar with him. And the other one here is the radius arms on the ends here, these round things here with a big arm going through there. They're all pretty low, but you know, they're all sort of rounded edges too. So you know, they're going to sort of go over rocks and things not too badly, but you still want to get familiar with those sort of things and what's going on. So that's pretty much all the low point as far as what's going on here. Now, what I'm doing here, I'm sort of lining through. So from the bottom of my diff axle here, all the way through to the back, I'm sort of lining that up and having a look through there, getting a bit of a visual on what's sort of in those low points. And as we go through, I'll point some of those out. But that's pretty much the front of my full drive here. Look, my suspension stuff and steering arms, they're fairly well tucked up, but you know, you can sort of hit those as well. But it's mainly all these low points. And when you're driving tracks, you know, you want to have sort of a bit of a picture of your full drive underneath. And sometimes, you know, you can try and pick lines so, you know, you don't go hitting your diff and those sort of things. You can't always do it, but you know, you can sometimes pick a line, and I was sort of a bit conscious of all the stuff that I've got going under here, because I do know under here pretty well. So this is why I'm sort of, you know, making this video, to make it aware to you guys that you really should have a good look under your full drive and get familiar with it. And then you can sort of be a bit aware of some things that are hanging under there when you're doing certain tracks. So that pretty much covers the front. We'll go down the back now and we'll check out all the low points around the back end. Right, so here we are now, down the back of my Nissan Patrol, my full drive here. And, you know, same thing again, a bit similar to the front, the diff bolt, lowest point. You know, they can get sort of hooked up and get caught up and get knocked around. So good idea to sort of know where that is. Lucky, you know, with it being the rear one, being in the middle, you know, you get a bit of an idea on where that one is. So he's not too hard to sort of remember. And then the other one too is over here where, you know, my spring hangers and where my shock hangers are hanging there, locked there, really low to the ground, very exposed. So, you know, you want to be conscious of those, particularly in rocky tracks, because they can get hit pretty hard. You know, they're about the same level off the ground there as where the bottom of the diff bowl is. So there's a couple of things there you want to sort of take in mind. You know, all my sway bars, they're all tucked up. And then I've got fuel tank up here. Well, it's got a decent sort of that's all sanded, that plate that comes with that. But that pretty much covers the back. There's not a great deal you sort of get hung up with down the back here. But in the middle there, there's quite a few sort of delicate items in the middle there. So we'll jump in there and I'll show you some of those. Let's check them out. Righto, under here. I'm about to lose that because there's just too much going on under here. So here we are now in the, you know, in the middle of my full drive here, where, you know, all this stuff here is fairly tucked up. You know, when you look at a straight line through, none of this stuff's going to get sort of hit. But where this area comes into it, when you're going up like a big washout or big rock ledge and you're coming down the other side, well, it's in the middle here where this sort of stuff can potentially get knocked around as you're coming down the other side, because this is now going to come really low to the top of that washout or hump wherever you are. So you need to be very careful all about this area. Now, I don't know, you might have bash plates sort of covering sort of all this area up, and that's all fine, but look, I'm not a big fan of bash plates, and You know, you've got to make sure that you wash them well over the top, because they do get covered in mud and that sort of stuff. But I just like to have all this exposed. I can see if there's any problems going on early, that sort of thing. So I like to see what's going on. But so this one here too, you know, this is another one I've got to take in mind here. You know, this front sway bar at the back of the front diff there, you know, that's fairly low. That can get hooked up pretty easy. And then, you know, down the back here, you know, you got your rear drive shafts, and then all those diff hangers here that are holding the rear diff back to the chassis. You know, you got to be careful of all those. There's just so much going on under a full drive that, you know, can get knocked around and bashed around and get damaged and broken. So, you know, when you're driving down those tracks and you hear all that, you know, clanging and banging sometimes going on under your full drive, well, it's somewhere going on under here. So if you've got a good mental picture, you know, of underneath your full drive, and get familiar with it so you know where all your low spots are, well, sometimes that can even help you, you know, pick a line going up the track so you can maybe try and avoid some of these low spots, especially your diffs and all that sort of stuff. So have a good look under your full drive, but as I said earlier, make sure it's on the ground when you do it like it is now. I know it's a bit tight, but this is the best way. Get under your full drive when it's on the ground. Have a good look underneath and just try and visualise where all these low spots are all hanging. And then you might try and avoid banging and clanging a few of those when you're out there next time on the tracks. So there you go, guys. That's my hot tip. Get under your full drive. Get to know it a lot better from under this view, and get a good look at it under here, and then get a good mental picture of it going inside there when you're driving down that next track, and you might avoid some of those banging and clanging. So there you go, guys. I'll let this one go and look forward to seeing you on the next one. Catch you later on. Hooroo.